torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio, radio with bite.
Howdy. Allison, you there?
It looks like we don't have her.
We don't have Allison. Who's going to introduce the show? I guess maybe I'll have to introduce it. Happy Halloween, everybody! And today on Honey Badger Radio, we are going to be discussing what it takes to be a creep. And honestly, Della, do you want to get into this? Because frankly, you were the model for the image in the ad that resembled the little girl from The Ring just so beautifully. And I wanted to hear your input on what it takes to be a creep.
Well, starting out, there's the difference between what actually is a creep and what gets called a creep quite so frequently. I mean, it's pretty obvious that there's a gaping difference between the way, say, feminists define creep and a lot of women who listen to them, and the way people get creeped out in real life. Like that movie, the thing that creeped everybody out about the movie The Ring was basically that there was nothing you could do. That once you had watched the movie, this chick was going to come out of the TV and scare you to death. And that was basically what she did. She scared you to death. There was nothing in the movie that said she strangled people or ate people like zombies or, no, she just came out and scared you to death. Which,
one thing that I found the most creepy about the little girl from The Ring was that her voice was so little girly. Like she was so little girly, and yet she was just so sinister. There was just this touch of, dare I say it, neoteny, this touch of childlike innocence, innocence, even the word innocence, the lack of knowledge of good and evil, the lack of knowledge of morality. Basically, that's what innocence is. You're too naive to understand what is good and what is bad. She was innocent at the same time that she was like totally brutally malevolent and almost inhuman, right?
She didn't just not know what was good and what was evil. She actually showed at different points in the movie that she didn't care. Like in the psychiatric hospital where she's telling whoever's interviewing her on the camera that she knows that it's bad, but it's not going to stop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it was total self-absorption on her part. It was total. It was complete and total. This is what I want. These are my needs. If my needs are not met, then people are going to suffer. That's just the way it is, and it was completely
very, very much.
Completely, just very, very cold and just a clinical assessment on her part of how things were going to go, and that's what really got me is the sort of the juxtaposition of her childlike voice with these completely sociopathic statements and behaviors, right? That she's human, but not quite.
That's actually, that's kind of what creeps me out about the femitheist. But what I really wanted to say about this is it also very much reminds me, the way you describe it, and you're quite accurate in the description, but it very much reminds me of the way women with borderline personality disorder, especially if they're narcissistic, get described by their exes.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's basically, if you loved me, I wouldn't have to hurt you like this.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and there is really, in some ways, there's sort of a lack of, there's an offloading of responsibility onto the other person, that if you loved me, I wouldn't have to. That it's as if they're saying to you, I have no choice, right?
Yeah.
You are the one who is choosing. It's like the torturer and the person who's being tortured. If you would only tell me the truth, I wouldn't have to torture you, right? And when you look at even torturers in that way, you're looking at people who are completely detached from their humanity, and that I think.
You guys hear me?
You're here,
Allison?
Yes, I'm back.
Here, we thought you'd been kidnapped.
You're back. You're here for the first time.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm back for this week, right? So I was here last week, but
just when we thought it was safe.
Just when we thought it was.
Yeah.
So what you're saying that maybe we need to categorize the creepiness that encompasses female hypo-agency and their ability to deflect more the moral consequences for their own actions.
Yes.
Not just the moral consequences, the moral, the actual moral motivation for their actions. It's as if you don't tell me what I want to know, right, then I have to torture you. So it's your fault that you're being tortured. You are the one who is choosing this. You are the person who is calling all of the shots by not giving me what I need. Right? That's what the torturer says to the person that they're torturing. That's what the borderline personality spouse says to their partner. That's, this is what the little girl in the ring says to everybody around her. You're not giving me what I want, and so I have no choice. You're choosing this. This is your choice. Right?
Right.
But it's an extremely inhuman way to behave.
It's a creepy way to behave, to be able to deflect that kind of agency and responsibility for your actions. It's sort of sinister.
But what I find most interesting
is
okay, Kate, one of us has to go. Let's hear from Della.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that kind of creepiness is exactly the thing that gets displayed when you see women and girls, particularly feminists, do it more than just regular girls and women. But when you see them trying to impose an intent on another party for an action that they don't want from the other party as well. He's looking at my butt. Oh, my God, that creep is looking at my butt. Like, then it doesn't matter whether they are or not. It's not that the person is doing anything to them. And then it suddenly becomes about her, and it suddenly becomes malicious, but it's not malicious on the part of the guy in question. It's a malicious attempt to impute malice where malice doesn't exist.
Yeah, I think
it's a way of trying to impose someone's fantasy on another person, or to impose their desire to have something to complain about, or their desire to be wanted.
Karen, you wrote about this a while back. You were talking about the extreme female brain impugning intention upon other people's actions.
Yeah. This is one of the really interesting things that they're doing now. Just since 2009 or 2010, Simon Baron Cohen had basically categorized or described autism spectrum disorders as the extreme male brain, extremely systemizing, and a bunch of other psychologists and researchers had said, well, so what's the extreme female brain? Would that be psychosis? And Simon Baron Cohen had said, no, that's not what, there's no such thing as a psychotic extreme female brain. But then when they actually started to do some testing on personality disorders and contrasted the symptoms against the symptoms of autism, they found that, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, all of these kinds of things, if autism spectrum disorders could be described as the extreme male brain, then these other personality disorders could be described as the extreme female brain. And one of the major symptoms of the extreme female brain was attributing intentionality where it didn't exist. Sort of, you meant to do that. You meant to do that. You intended that. And other things. One of the things that really struck me was as far as gaze awareness, being aware of other people looking at you. In autism spectrum disorders, according to the tests that they do, it's completely lacking. And then in borderline personality disorder, it manifests as either erotomania or delusions of persecution. And when I think of erotomania and delusions of persecution and I combine the two, what I get is rape culture.
Right? Yeah.
You know, like it's everybody wants me and it harms me that they want me. You know, and this obsession with sexual objectification of women. And it really does boil down to over-reading, over-interpreting the intentions of others and the motivations of others, like basically reading more into it than actually exists.
And what I find creepy about that, to bring it back to the show topic, is that when you do read more into the actions of others, you're giving yourself an excuse to engage in a persecution complex, but also to dehumanize other people by emphasizing their bad intent and their agency against you. So you're essentially setting up a threat narrative in your mind targeted at these people, which then can justify doing all kinds of horrendous things to them because they made you do it, because their actions had all of these negative intents behind them, because they're just bad people who deserve it, usually men. They're bad men who deserve your aggression against them. I mean, when you get into this ability to impugn intent, to see intent where it doesn't exist, you can excuse all kinds of nasty behavior.
Well, one thing that gets me too is that any time that you overemphasize somebody's agency, you are dehumanizing them. There was one study recently that compared men and women and compared them as far as, you know, in different states of dress and undress, and they found that the more naked the person was, the more of an object they were perceived as opposed to an agent. Women were always perceived as, no matter how, you know, much or how little they were dressed, right, how nude they were perceived as more of objects than men were. But the more clothes you put on, the more of an agent you're perceived to be. But the one thing that got me about this research was that when people perceived you as an agent, all they saw was your actions, right, and your intentions. And when they perceived you as an object, they perceived you through your ability to experience things. They perceived you to have an inner world of being able to have experiences as opposed to being able to impose experiences on others. And so basically people who were objectified in that way were seen as more human, more capable of feeling, more capable of having an inner world, an inner emotional life, more capable of having experiences, all of these things, right? Than people who had more clothes on, and women were perceived in that way more than men were across the board. So when you are agentifying a person, you're actually dehumanizing them. You're seeing them only through how they can affect you.
How they can affect other people.
Yes.
Which isn't like that whole process of removing somebody's interior life and saying that we essentially don't have to care about it. We're going to judge them exclusively by their effects on others. Now that is truly creepy. So I want to get
something else creepy about it is that feminists and, you know, women that are influenced by feminism will acknowledge the idea of objectification when women are the targets, and they'll call it bad no matter what level it is and no matter what the effects of it are. But when men are the targets, regardless of the effects and regardless of what level it is, they will say it's not as bad as when it happens to women, or it's not real objectification. They go out of their way to deny that men have the same experience at all, much less that it has
right
a meaningful impact.
into that study that says that no matter what, no matter how you're dressed, a woman who has the same amount of clothes on as a man is going to be seen more as an object. But what feminists do is they completely deny that there's benefits to being seen as an object rather than an agent. That there is something to be gained. That there.
I do have to I should probably make an announcement before we get too much further into the show. We are going to be taking callers pretty quick, so if you have something to talk to us about, if you have comments on the show topic, if you have a creepy story, if you have a story about a woman who creeped you out, definitely call in and tell us all about it. The number is, again, 1-310-388-9709. That is 1-310-388-9709. Another thing I wanted to mention is we now have a website at www.honeybadgerbrigade.com. That's honeybadgerbrigade.com. Unfortunately, Honey Badger Radio was already taken, so we had to go with Brigade. But hopefully you'll come. People who've been listening today and in the future will go and take a look at our website. Pretty soon we'll have an archive up at YouTube, so you can look at the old shows in a format that maybe people will understand better than the Blog Talk format. I know it can be a bit confusing. But anyway, once again, the website is honeybadgerbrigade.com. And I believe James also had an announcement. James, were you wanting to make your announcement right now, or did you need a little more time?
Actually, Typhon, I won't be making an announcement today. I may be making an announcement tomorrow on the Voice of Europe.
Okay.
All right?
Okay. All right. Sorry?
Thank you.
Well, now I'm all curious and stuff.
Well, that was the announcement for the announcement. I guess we'll
have
to
announcement.
To find out what the announcement was. But anyway, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to get that show business out of the way and continue with the conversation. Personally, I think this idea that women get to decide what is and is not creepy is itself sort of creepy. I mean, if it was a situation where men and women equally decided what was on the edge of acceptable in terms of human behavior, it would be a lot less creepy. But because it seems to be invested in women, it seems like that is that kind of bottleneck of power seems in and of itself to be somewhat creepy. So I'd like to get your guys' opinion on that idea.
Well, I just think that it wouldn't even necessarily be creepy if they didn't abuse it so much. Right? Like they abuse that power. It's a power that women have, but they abuse it. Like you literally have a guy who's a little bit socially awkward who wants to buy you a drink and asks for your phone number, and it's like, get lost, you creep, right? Usually after they accept the drink. They literally will, they just, the amount of judgment that is in their, how they deem somebody creepy or somebody not. And I, like literally my boyfriend, when I was at a friend's wedding, my friend had her older boy was about 5 and her younger one was about 1.5. And we'd been staying at their house for a couple of days, and, so the kids were really used to him, and he would get down and play on the floor with them and stuff, with trains and cars and stuff like that, right? So, I mean, they really liked him. And so we're at the wedding reception, and up walks the younger one, who's 1.5 years old, and kind of glances up at the 2 or 3 guys in the group, my boyfriend being one of them, and my boyfriend looks and says, "Hey, how you doing?" and kind of pats him on the head. And one of the my friend's relatives calls this kid over, come here, right? Because my boyfriend was being creepy with this kid. My boyfriend seemed creepy because he was smiling at a kid and patting him on the head.
Well, I think part of the problem, like I said, I totally agree. Like, women use creep too often. Like, they use it for men who are just harmless. You know, they're socially atypical. They might be on the autism spectrum, so they're awkward, or they have difficulty with certain social situations. Or they like kids. Yeah, or they just smile at a kid. It's thrown around so much. And then there's also the problem that it's an asymmetrical power relationship. Women can say the word creep, but it just doesn't seem to work as well when you label a woman creepy. And yet I have met some very, very creepy women.
I have as well, yeah. You don't get the same sense of like when I meet a woman who would be the analog to the male creep, it would be, the batshit crazy woman, right? Because I think that when men are socially awkward, we see them as being sinister in some way. When women are socially awkward, we see them as being shy, right? We see them as being shy and unsure of themselves. We don't really see a woman as being a threat unless she's completely batshit insane.
Which is sort of unfortunate because generally if you don't actually give women negative feedback for their minor crazy, they tend to escalate it.
Oh, God, yeah.
Batshit insane, and it's unfortunate. Yeah, you're right, because certain behaviors when women do it just aren't seen as creepy as when men do it. And I think that has, to bring in some theory into it, I think that has a lot to do with the idea that women really judge who belongs in the society and what is appropriate behavior within that society. So if a woman does it, it almost becomes appropriate.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think that no matter what behavior is going down, people have a hard time seeing that behavior from a woman as intimidating in the way that they would from a man. It's just you other than unless you have the creepy music. Unless you have the creepy soundtrack playing behind that scene from Play Misty for Me, where she's standing above the bed with a knife and he opens his eyes and there she is, right? And then she starts to stab him. It's almost like with women we need that cue of the creepy music, or we need to see the knife in her hand before we are willing to admit that she's creepy.
Yeah. Although I'd have to say that the creepiest kind of monster is the monster that can hide itself in plain view, right?
That's a whole bunch of women.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't even perceive what they're up to until they blindside you, and that's the creepiest. The problem with guys is that generally, for most guys, when they're bad, you can generally see their badness from orbit, right? They just
you can even see it if it isn't there. I mean, that's the thing is that you're trained. You're socialized from the time that you're really young to be looking out for that. So you see anything that's a little bit off, and you're primed to see it. And so even if it isn't actually there, if there's some kind of something that's off, you can be like, oh, that guy's bad news, right? And nobody ever gives that kind of training to a young man or to a boy. The boys are not socialized in a way to say any woman could be a potential threat to you. Any woman could fuck you over. Any woman could completely fuck up your life. So you be really careful women have their own agenda, so you be really careful. And, like we start telling girls when they're 10, 11, 12 years old, boys are out for one thing, you be careful, they're going to try and talk you into it, they're going to try and, they're going to give you every excuse in the book why you should, blah, blah, blah. You just, you need to make sure that you don't do anything you're not ready to do, all of these things, right? We don't give those talks to boys, right?
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't actually prepare men to judge women based on their own vulnerabilities, like on their own potential vulnerabilities. But where I was getting
on a woman's potential bad intentions.
Yeah, where I was getting with that idea of you can see men's their bad behavior from orbit is that women, in a lot of ways, I think that women have more of an instinct of the predator about them, because they don't just want to strike; they want to strike and not be seen.
Yes.
So that they can perpetually, continually engage in the kinds of violence that are, and I'm talking about predatory women, not all women, but predatory women just seem to be more predatory, because again they have that almost that instinct about being camouflaged, remaining unseen, so that they can continue their path of destruction. Whereas men, when they're bad, seem to want to be seen. They seem to want everybody to know, and it to me that predatory mindset, where you're always having a thought, an eye to keeping your activities, your hateful, your violent activities hidden, so you can perpetuate them as long as possible. That's really creepy. And
that's relational aggression, though. That's basically, and one of the things that got me in a recent article on relational aggression and the typical female pattern of bullying, the last paragraph of the article that said by adulthood men are doing this just as much, and so a lot of people were saying, especially in the workplace, and a lot of people were saying, well, then it's not a gendered behavior. And I'm like, well, if girls are doing it in elementary school and men are doing it at age 25 in the workplace, then one is an instinctive behavior and the other is a learned behavior, right?
Well, that's true.
And
but just to clarify, I'm actually talking about violence, not relational aggression, but violence. And I think women have that instinct to keep their violence hidden.
Well, that's why they engage in relational aggression rather than all-out, full-out, chest-beating bullying, right, is because they want to
on this partly
everything
based
covert.
On growing up in a neighborhood where the girls didn't act like girls, at least not girls from anywhere else I ever met. And this is something that every place I've gone, I've been just a little bit lost among other females because of this. When I was a little girl, if you had a problem with another little girl, you went to the park and you duked it out and somebody got a bloody nose and then it was over, and you're expected to get over it and play well together. Now, the one thing that they did do that I'm familiar with from other girls is that there was enmity that lasted beyond the fight. Whereas the boys, they'd fight, they'd be done with it, they'd play football together, they'd have a good time, and if you asked, aren't you still mad at Bob? What are you talking about? I was never mad at Bob. We just had a fight. And if it's Chrissy and Julie had their fight and they went off and played together later, Chrissy and Julie might at separate times in separate places turn around and say, well, yeah, Chrissy's a bitch, or I hate Julie, or she was, being dishonest or whatever, trying to steal my boyfriend or whatever. But overtly, the fight was violent and the fight was over. Every place else I've gone, every other place that I've dealt with female social behavior, it really wasn't. There was no
one of the things
physical
that my
violence.
dad...
There was no overt. You didn't kick somebody's butt. You made subtle little suggestions and hints to other people. You dug. You negged. You complimented in a way that would make everyone else feel bad about the person, or that would make the person feel bad about themselves. And I was just completely lost with that, because usually if somebody got mad at me for something that I did when I was growing up, I'd get a fist to the face for it and defend myself, and that would be the end of the discussion. It was over. So it's really, it may be
your story reminds me of my sister. My sister and some other girl at her school in middle school. They had a conflict, and they had set a date to have a fight, and my dad drove my sister to that fight. And he stood there, and he pulled the boys who were going to rush in and pull these girls apart. He pulled them off to the side and told them not to interfere.
Yeah.
And then when my sister got her butt kicked, he took her out for ice cream.
Yeah.
And
to be honest, my dad
one way to approach.
My dad told me when we got older, the reason we lived in that neighborhood was because in that neighborhood, the kids played rough, and they did settle their differences and move on, and you learned how to defend yourself at the park. And in the neighborhood on the opposite side of town, the kids, when they would get mad at each other, would stand on their doorsteps and say, "You can't come in my yard anymore. I don't like you
You're
anymore.
You're not invited to my birthday party."
Yeah, we had all that. Yeah. And so that's how my parents chose which side of town to live on. They wanted my brother and me to grow up able to handle ourselves and not whiny like that. But,
wow, we are moving quite off topic, but
we are actually.
The thing that creeps me out, honestly, about it is realizing that there's this huge, massive population that any type of aggression, not just violent aggression, not just conflict, but any type of aggression they have, is put forth in a sneaky manner.
Yeah.
And it may be a natural thing. It may be for some women. It may be a genetic thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's also something that you can learn to not do.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of girls in my neighborhood. There weren't a lot of us the same age. We were always outnumbered by the boys. And I think growing up with boys and playing with boys and being one of the boys because there wasn't anything else to be was beneficial to us, even though we were not, it was harder to deal with female aggression that was sneaky because it helped us to not be sneaky in our aggression.
Yeah.
And it is just kind of creepy to think of that as a natural female trait.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to go to some commercials now. But before we do, I'd like to give out the number again for anyone who wants to call in. It's 1-310-388-9709. That's 1-310-388-9709. After the commercials, we will be taking callers, so please call in.
You dragon, you evil monsters. Oh, hello everyone. Didn't see you there. Angry Harry here, still fighting after all these years. So don't forget to visit angryharry.com to arm yourself with cognitive cluster bombs. Bombs with which to blow the wicked feminists to smithereens.
Hello, this is Fiedelbogen. I don't like feminism, and I'm not shy about saying so. I don't want to argue or debate with feminism. I want to put it out of business. And on the Counter-Feminist blog, I discuss 1,000 ways, both large and small, to make this happen. Point your browser to counterfem.blogspot.com.
I'd like to warn some women out there, if you're in college, dangerous out there, Jane. There's rapists all around. Most men are rapists, right? Any man could be a rapist. Is it 1 in 5 are raped? So it's risky. I think women out there should not go to college. It's dangerous. I mean, if 40 of you women are walking the campus at night, 10 of you will probably be assaulted. That's too high a risk. I wouldn't go to college. You know, go to an online college. This is Gary Costanza, and please check out my YouTube channel, Jerry the Other. That's Jerry the Other, Jerry the Other, no spaces. Bricks of logic may fly out. Take care.
Come listen to A Voice for Men Radio, the voice of Europe.
The Voice of Europe.
This show is probably the only one at this point addressing the issues concerning men and boys at a European level.
The Voice of Europe.
Every Friday on 7 p.m. London time and 1 p.m. Central Time.
This is the place where feminism gets to be called out on its lies and propaganda, and the state is invited to get out of people's lives.
I am Lucian Bulsan, and this is the Voice of Europe.
And welcome back to the show. This is Honey Badger Radio, and the topic tonight is how to be a creep. And we're going to go to our first caller. Our first caller is Sean, who apparently has something to share with us. Sean, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, good. I wrote something back. I made up a psychology experiment. I've never seen it done, but I wish it would be done. I'll just read it. Okay. Imagine a classroom setting where there's a hidden camera, and they want to see how men are treated differently according to how they look. So they have two specific males for the project. A lecture time of full-time students is more or less the setting, and both males are pretty much identical in every respect, ranging from body build, height, eye color, personality profiles, success potential. It's all roughly the same, except that Jack is rather handsome and John is, well, kind of homely. All right. Now, on Mondays and Wednesdays, Jack would attend classes. Well, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, John would show up. The two were never seen together. And about 3 weeks into the course, it was pretty obvious that Jack was getting unsolicited preferential treatment. Female colleagues would draw closer. They would do a lot of unsolicited touching, picking imaginary lint off his jacket, playing with his hair. Once in a while, somebody would pat him on the ass. I think he got invited to a couple of parties, and he started dating one of the women. So it was pretty obvious he was doing okay while John was in the friend zone. And one morning, the professor asked the class if they thought they might be capable of treating people differently according to how they look. Of course, the men would admit it, and naturally, by admitting it, they got the scorn of just about everybody on planet Earth. The women would deny this. This was back in the 90s, so they weren't quite really ready to admit it yet. Okay, so women didn't do it, but men did. All right. At that point, the professor plopped tape into the VCR and began playing footage from the hidden camera. And it was pretty obvious that Jack was being treated better than John. So at that point, they asked again, are you sure there's no difference in the way these people are treated? Well, that's when they thought, well, there's a reason he's being treated different, you see, because Jack is more intelligent, more funny, more outgoing, positive, has moral strength, all that kind of stuff, all the good stuff. John apparently did not. Okay, this is about the time the bomb fell. John steps into the front of the class and began peeling the latex makeup from his face to reveal that he's also Jack. All right. So you can imagine the reaction. Then there's a scream from the back of the class, and everybody's wondering why. And it's found out that the girl that Jack is seeing, well, she's kind of freaking out about the whole thing, and he doesn't understand what the big deal is. So what? It's just an experiment. She says, you don't understand. I filed a sexual harassment claim against John. Now, I made this up, but you got to admit, I think there's a germ of truth to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, there is a germ of truth to it.
Saturday Night Live sketch, in order to avoid sexual harassment claims in the workplace, follow 3 simple rules. be handsome, be attractive, and don't be unattractive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I actually I coined a phrase for that. I call it physical currency.
Yeah.
It literally is. I mean, we shop for each other like we look for a fucking car. You know?
That's a good way to describe it.
I mean, where the hell do you find love in this? Oh, and on the subject of being a creep, I've been a garbage man for about 6.5 years, and I got to tell you, the kids love the trucks. I don't really know why. It's kind of like a fire engine with flies, but they like the trucks.
Of course they do. Of course they do, because it's a big,
awesome
huge piece of machinery.
Yeah,
and
except,
they crush things.
Yeah, but you got to watch out for the joy juice and the dancing rice. Other than that, it's okay, you know. So, you know, after a while, I would tell the parents that, you know, I'm available for children's parties, weddings, bar mitzvahs, you know. I mean, the kids would be following me around like I'm the Pied Piper or something. It was really funny, but yeah, I mean, I had a couple moments where they didn't exactly trust me until they got to know me, you know, week after week, picking up the garbage. Yeah, kids like me, animals like me. Get over it. Like,
yeah, and it's actually what's sort of creepy about that is I remember watching a documentary on a female pedophile and how she would actually gain people's trust, and it was very easy for her because she was a woman. You know, people would automatically trust her. So she probably violated many times more children than a male pedophile. And now that we're getting statistics in that show that pedophilia really is not a male thing, I mean, that's just chilling. It's so terrifying how we have such suspicion for men, but we allow these women to just fly under the radar, and they can do all kinds of things that are just. I mean, if they were a man, people would instantly pick up on it, but they don't because it's a woman, right?
You look at some of the female serial killers that have been profiled on the unknown history of misandry, and just the number of victims that they can rack up in the hundreds, in some cases, before they're detected, because nobody suspects that nurse at that hospital or that woman who runs that orphanage could possibly be doing something horrible.
That nurse at that hospital is just about the creepiest story I've ever heard. The most helpless of all.
Well, wasn't that the thing that was Dexter's first victim in the TV series? Dexter was the nurse that was trying to kill his father, trying to slowly poisoning his father.
Yeah,
well, a couple weeks ago,
that's one that I got told about but didn't get to see.
Sorry to bother you.
Let's let Sean finish here.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Sean.
Just a couple weeks. I believe a couple weeks ago, I phoned in and I was talking about the time I was in school, and that elementary teacher told George to take all of his clothes off in front of the entire class.
That was insane.
I got to look at that real close, and I don't exactly know what kind of artistic license she had to do with this, but it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I'm sure there's a classroom of fucking kids. Somebody must have told one of their parents, and she was still there.
Yeah,
it was weird.
It's actually quite possible they didn't.
Yeah, maybe.
It's quite possible they were so intimidated or so freaked out that they didn't know how to describe it to their parents. That's actually one of the things that prevents molestation victims from getting help, that they don't know how to explain to mom and dad what's happened to them. They don't really
and
have
also that if it's from a woman, there's an automatic assumption that it's actually permissible.
That it's okay. That nobody will believe them.
It's not a transgression. It's not something that's violative. It's actually it's okay. It has to be okay because it's a woman doing it. And I think that's probably what I think goes on with with the sort of the 16% of men with a documented history of childhood sexual abuse, right? only 16% of them reveal that in a survey designed to capture victims of childhood sexual abuse versus 64% of women. That when, especially if that abuse comes at the hands of a woman, there is a desire, there's an instinctive desire when something traumatic happens to you at the hands of a woman to explain it away or to recontextualize it or to say it's actually not abuse, it's discipline, or it's this or it's that or it's something else. It's not actually a crime, it's not a violation, it's not a traumatic experience, it's not because this is a woman. Right, I think that
and in the sneaky way
and it's
that
not just
dysfunctional women act out their aggression, the sneaky way that dysfunctional women act out their aggression also plays into that, because as soon as they start to show that aggression, they're also going to provide the material for that need to explain it away. They will actually give you the story to tell yourself.
Oh, they'll feed it to you. And it's like, part of me thinks that if 16% of men with a history of child sexual abuse, maybe the 84% are the women, the ones who are abused by women, and the 64% of women with a history of child sexual abuse, maybe the 36% are the ones who were abused by women.
Well, it certainly is. People tend to reveal sexual abuse by women considerably less, which makes this even more creepy. The idea that we give women so much latitude, we actually rationalize away their bad behavior, and then we also, people who are abused by them have that, triple whammy of they can't even acknowledge it. They can't even conceptualize. I read statistics in which only 2% of the women who were sexually abused by a woman as a girl revealed this, and almost none of the men who were sexually abused by a woman as a man revealed it to caseworkers or the police or anybody who supposedly is supposed to be supporting this. And at the same time, it's being abused by a woman, being sexually abused by a woman for a boy. I don't know if this works for girls as well, because of course they don't study it. But being sexually abused by a woman is itself the greatest risk factor to going on and abusing others. And we have this huge blind spot. So we have created a society that manufactures rapists, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
there's something else. There's something else creepy about this. Something else creepy about the situation where you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to think about it as having been something bad. You don't want to go on and believe that you were abused or you were harmed by a woman. Is that when you finally do come forward and you finally do try to explain to people what happened, if you are dealing with a caseworker that is trained within the context laid out by feminists, when you're dealing with someone who got their training from within the status quo, the way things are now, they will turn around and tell you that it didn't happen the way you said.
Yeah, and that's just unbelievable. But thank you, Sean, for calling in and reading that scenario. And
that's fun.
Please call in again. Now we're going to go to Josh, who has a definition of a creep. Josh, are you there?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good. What's your definition? I'm dying to hear it.
Oh, well, I've spent about the last year on the dating scene. I was back in, was in a relationship for a while, and I've come up with this definition, and the definition of a creep is any male that says any male that says one word more to a female than she wants to hear.
Oh.
That would be the definition of a creep. In a dating, like when you're out at the bar meeting people.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Description of how it's used.
It always seems to go straight to the, when like things aren't necessarily clicking. It's always, that guy's a creeper.
Yeah.
How they get rid of
instead
you.
of just saying it's not clicking or you're not interested, you'll go automatically to C-bomb.
Right.
Yeah, well, thanks for that definition. Did you have anything else to add at all? To
No,
or
that
any other
was it.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for the definition. Thank you for the talking point. I'm going to go now to fatherless. Fatherless,
Hello.
are you there?
How are you, ladies?
Oh, we're doing well. At least I am. I can't speak for Della or Karen.
I'm terrible.
Doing good.
Terrible, I tell you.
Well, you should be. You're a self-hating misogynist.
I am self-hating, internalized misogyny. It's terrible. It's eating me from the inside out.
Contributions to the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have an email from a stalker, which I will obviously keep her name anonymous. But I would like to read it. Just so that you can see just how creepy a person can be. This is in response to my second time telling her never to contact me again, and that she was starting to freak me out. Is this fair game?
Yeah.
Go ahead and read it.
So. I want to. James, if it's not fair game, please weigh in right now and tell us that we can't air this.
There is no personal identifying information.
Okay, well, James hasn't weighed in, so our patriarchal master has allowed.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, guys, I've been kind of back and forth in the back room. Okay, so what's going on here?
There's a letter, an email from a stalker, no identifying information in it, that somebody wants to read. And we want to make sure that you're okay with that
as an example of
a liability level. So.
Well,
as an example of female creepiness.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't see how we would be held liable.
All right, go ahead then.
Don't name any names.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Dear fatherless, remember, this is in response to me telling her never to contact me again. Dear fatherless, I will say that I am not creepy. I am very nice, and I have a lot of concern for others. If you are referring to my continuing to try to connect with you, it is just that you were the last guy that I was really interested in, and you are a happy memory that I wanted to hang on to. If you say that someone is creepy, there better be something really wrong with their values. As far as I know, I am not doing anything illegal. If I have looked online to see what you were doing with your life, it is because you are an interesting person, and I liked you. As far as I know, looking at public information is not illegal. I took your picture for 2 reasons. I thought you weren't valuing your experiences enough and getting recognition, and I thought I could give you your photo someday if we had a relationship. And of course I am attracted to you, but I have never even had an orgasm in my life. And as far as pictures or any relations, I am grossly concerned about pornography and anything abusive and damaging. You sounded cute and whisper soft and a little hoarse in your writing, but the words are wrong. The cleverness and sharpness with you only goes so far. You would have been better off saying that we wouldn't look good together, or we don't have enough in common. I foresee you becoming a cold and cruel person, and if you don't relate some part of your life to a set of values. From the beginning, I don't know how talking about the Bible terrified you. If you were getting into intellectualism and relativism, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I want to live in the Holy Spirit and try to find what is good, what God wants. I think God loves you very much, and that you have a particular role to contribute to this world, but you have to discern that. I'm sorry if I said anything that was too romantic to you. I don't want to create lust, and it is good that we didn't date or kiss if we're not going to have proper intentions. You sound to me like you have general anxiety problems or some moodiness. If you need to go to a hospital for evaluation, do that. I don't know how crazy you are. But I do know that I'm a good person and want the best for others. The problem is at some point I should want the best for myself. Again, if you were crazy, get help immediately.
I hope this email is what God wants. Sincerely, Fatherless's stalker.
Well.
Boy, freaking. Okay, somebody is talking to the inside of her own head.
That's pretty much what we were describing before when we were talking about borderline personality disorder with narcissism, where we were talking about blaming on the other person one's own motives and one's own issues and one's own intentions. That's exactly what we were talking about earlier. This person is crazy.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I mean, like, I don't know the history. Like, how many exchanges did you have with her?
I think the email ratio. I think I sent her before that about 2 emails, maybe 3. One was ha ha ha. Second email was please don't contact me again. Third email was really seriously don't fucking ever reach out to me
Okay,
again.
yeah, no, she's crazy.
Yeah.
I would suggest don't message her at all.
Oh,
Just
no, this was
infected. If she...
Yeah. No, like, the longer history is we worked together for 3 weeks. We became Facebook friends, had one chat, and I knew after that she was crazy. And then the emails came. And then the phone calls came. I never gave her my phone number.
Oh, dear.
You know? And then the text
So
messages
she kicked it
and
probably
then
off
the
the
emails
work.
came. And
She got it from work. She got it from work,
Yeah, it was awful. Actually, I think she got it from LinkedIn. Oops. So,
is this person still contacting you?
No, thankfully. And it's been about a year. But this process this lasted for about 6 months, maybe 10 months. These weird
Good
emails.
grief.
This was This was the worst. This is definitely the worst one. After this email, by this time I had stopped emailing her, but there are, I think, about 10 more emails from her after this. They're all shorter, though.
Good grief.
Yeah.
She continued to email after you quit replying?
No. Yeah, there were at least 10 more emails after I quit replying. Yeah.
Like, I could see if there was, like, a relationship there. You know, like that would seem like maybe a breakup letter if there was already a relationship there. If you'd been together for 6 months and been having sex and stuff, right? Like, but a couple of weeks.
She's never had an orgasm in her life.
Okay, information nobody needs.
Never hung out an orgasm, Della.
We were co-workers.
Bad case of TMI.
Okay, you can't all talk at once. Blog Talk will break. So let's let Fatherless finish his thought here.
I'm sorry. No, you guys are saying better things. I was saying, we were coworkers for 3 weeks, and then she friended me on Facebook, and that was the extent of our interactions.
Good
okay,
grief.
Yeah, she's essentially as crazy as a person on the street corner screaming at individual air molecules. And the unfortunate part
intentionality into your niceness.
Yeah,
you were really nice to her, and she read intentions in there that didn't exist.
She's also adding a religious aspect to it that doesn't exist, trying to make religion an excuse for forcing her wishes on you. That's something I've seen before.
Yeah. Okay,
so that's all I got, ladies.
Was there anything else that you wanted to add to it?
No. I mean, I'm just like lucky that I spotted those red flags really, really early.
Oh yeah. That was pretty creepy.
Like, it seems like this is a situation where there was no, like, there's only red flags. Like there doesn't. Usually with a lot of these women who are like borderline, there's usually some aspect that isn't a red flag or is seductive, but this just it's like she just started with shoving red flags in your face, which is maybe a good thing. You know?
Yeah. It sounds like she started with the assumption that you guys were a relationship waiting to happen, and then decided to force it through just overzealous communication.
Yeah.
It could have been much worse if she'd managed to appear normal and just weasel her way into your life, and then start being all nutty. It would have been much worse.
Crazy.
Yeah. And anybody that does not believe that, watch Fatal Attraction. Yeah.
But even so, it's still pretty unnerving. Unnerving, and also I think part of the reason why women get to that point is that people don't intercede. They just let the crazy mount with women and mount and mount. And
they blame the victim quite frequently too. What did you do to make her feel this way? What did you do to make her think that you were interested? What did you do? Yeah. I just don't. Honestly, I don't know. And there's quite frequently there's nothing.
Thank you, Fatherless, for that example of a very creepy email from a creepy woman.
Yeah, that is pretty creepy. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween to you too.
Happy Halloween.
We're going to move to David now. And David, what do you have to tell us tonight?
Well, I like Josh's definition of a creep, but I have another one.
All right.
I think that the reason women use creep and men don't, just in regular conversation, is because creep just means harmful to women as a blanket statement, or potentially threatening to women. Because it is so easy to be called a creep, and of course, as a guy, you have to prove your innocence on that. But guys will only call another guy a creep if he's acting weirdly towards other women.
Yeah.
And if you watch a movie, your regular murderer or burglar, he's never a creep, but a rapist might very well be.
Yeah,
Am I coming clearly? And
as soon as they target, they become creeps.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's extremely easy to be called a creep, even if all you were doing was reading the words written on her butt, which is like in bright fluorescent letters designed to attract your eye, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it's your fault. Okay.
Why do you write something on your butt if you don't want people to read it?
Thank you. No, actually, I use that example because that's what happened at a class today. It was just, I didn't get called a creep, but I got that, well, you know, the look. And,
don't look at the letters on my butt.
The silent shunning. It's like, I'm sorry, you wrote pink in pink. You know, it's on a black background, too. So it's...
It's hard not to, I mean, when it's, even if we just take aside a sexual interest, it's really hard not to read something written in front of you, right? It's just something that's trained in us because language is supposed to be important. Who knows? It could be like a warning sign.
Yeah, warning. Stay away from this woman. No, I'm kidding.
Warning, impending fart. That's what I need to do, is get that put out on a pair of sweatpants just for me. Impending fart.
Oh man, well, but it does make no sense. If you don't want people looking at your butt or other parts of your body, don't put writing on it.
Yeah.
It's just just avoid that. I suppose that's slut shaming.
You know, that actually kind of speaks into it, or sort of slips into another area that has always bugged me. And this is not a slight against people with tattoos. I love tattoos. I think they are awesome, even though I don't have any. But when I see somebody getting upset because somebody is looking at their tattoo or has asked a question about their tattoo, especially if it looks like something that might have a deep personal meaning, or, you know, it's puzzling, like there's a set of numbers on somebody, usually, in almost every case that I've seen it, it's been a woman that's getting upset. You know, you ask a guy about his tattoos, he'll tell you all about them. Or if it's something that's personal because it was a heartbreaking situation. Oh, that's the day my child died. Or
because he got drunk one time.
I came home from, that's the day I came home from Afghanistan, and my buddy didn't. Or something like that. They'll say, well, this isn't something that I really talk about very much, but it has a deep personal meaning to me, and that's it. They don't, how dare you ask me about this? How dare you look at my tattoo? A lot of them will actually have a neat story to tell you behind it, And this is, I'm a Spider-Man fan. That's why I have this, on my arm or anything. And as God forbid you ask about a tattoo that's on a woman's boobs, or God forbid a dude ask about a tattoo that's on a woman's boobs. Are you looking at my boobs? Well, if you didn't want your boobs looked at, why did you put bright colors on them?
Yeah.
That's one that has always. It seems kind of like an anglerfish. It's creepy in the way that an anglerfish is creepy. You put look at this on something so that you can get mad because people are looking at it.
Yeah, it's shitty behavior. Like it really is, and you're not allowed. Like in a lot of cases, you're not allowed to actually point this out as shitty behavior. When you create a visual nuisance and then people look at it and you get upset because they're looking at it. Yeah, that is definitely should be classified as creepy behavior. From my own personal background, like I find a lot of female exhibitionism to be creepy. But again, it's like something that you can't really talk about because women aren't supposed to be creepy, right? They're not supposed to be sinister, and they're not. And their sexuality is not supposed to be harmful.
I'll be honest about it. I've been exhibitionist to an extent. I have skirts that barely cover my ass. But when I wear those skirts, I go out with the idea that people are going to look at my legs because I want them to, not the idea that I'm going to get mad at people for looking at my legs. There's no point to wear those other than look at my legs.
There's a difference between women who dress up for attention and they handle it and it's a good time had by all, and women who set it up as a trap in order to fuck with people. Women who are setting it up as putting it in your face deliberately to antagonize people who don't want to have to see it, like at work. You want a professional environment. You don't want to have to deal with someone's boobs hanging out. And when
I go to work, I go to work looking professional.
Yeah, exactly. There's a difference in intent, but of course we can't discuss this because this is, I don't know, slut shaming or shaming women's sexuality. Well, that's the thing. I mean, we can't discuss how women's sexuality can be harmful because that would be shaming women, right? But the reality is that every human being's sexuality can be harmful in certain contexts and done in certain ways. Like if you rape someone, your sexuality is by definition harmful to them. But anyway, thanks for that, David. And did you have anything else to add before we move on to the next caller?
No, just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you for calling in. Okay, we're going to
before
go
we
now
move on, I have a suggestion. Maybe the entrapment and shaming for looking would become more obvious to women that they're doing it, and maybe less likely to happen if men started doing it back. Wear muscle shirts and say, "Stop looking at my biceps."
Yeah. Mine's up here, bitch.
Well, I remember there was this one, I don't know if you guys saw this, I think it was a slut walk in Brazil.
Mm-hmm. Where the guy exposed himself?
Yeah, I mean, there are women at slut walks who are
almost... they attacked him, didn't they?
Yeah, they raped him. But they, like, a huge crowd of them were clamoring to get to him, and I assume that it wasn't to give him flowers.
No.
So he goes and he exposes himself. But the thing is that in a lot of these slut walks, I've seen a slut walk picture in which a woman was wearing a corset, but that was it, like a corset around and nothing else. Labia flapping in the breeze, and they're getting upset about this guy. His penis is exposed.
Yeah, and flaccid penis, mind you. He just took down his pants and exposed his penis to the women walking topless and sometimes bottomless of the slut walk, and they were like, I remember the pictures. They looked like they wanted to rip his head off,
to tear him apart. And what is that?
They were so animated that it was almost like watching anime in real life.
Oh yeah.
They
were more animated than anime. They were more frames per second.
Yeah.
All right, but let's move on to
James wants to play a song. Can James play a song?
Sure. Does he know what song to play?
I don't know. I'm just saying I want to play a song in our.
Lately I've been contemplating the pros and cons of dating, what is and shouldn't be. In my mind a thought's been brewing just how easy I'd be doing if I only had a V. As a man I have my member, but I just can't remember when dinner dates were free. And now I've just accepted I might have a new perspective if I only had a V. I would not be called a gawker, could not be called a stalker, and that's just fine with me. I could be so flirtatious, everyone would be so gracious if I only had a V. Oh, I might like to shop. You know I never have before. At the mall I stroll through each and every store and never know what I'm shopping for. And when I'm not doing my best, I blame it on PMS. You'd have to pardon me. Everyone would find it useless not to accept my excuses if I only had a V. Oh, I could fantasize how I've been so oppressed, how it's so unfair, my whole life's such a mess. And then I'd go out and buy a dress. I'd complain all men were brutal, how fighting them is futile, but really, don't you see? I'd ignore all the catcalls, no, I have them all by the balls if I only had a V. I'd say a penis, who needs it? I wouldn't have to beat it. I'd know that spring's eternal. I'm giving up the urinal, 'cause there'd be nothing finer than to talk about my vagina. If I only had a V. If I only had a V. If I only had a V. If I only had a V.
Wow. That was quite the song.
That was awesome.
I'm glad I was muted because I was laughing my ass off. And if that man only had a V, he wouldn't be, according to the CDC, he wouldn't be a rapist. If he wanted to have sex with someone who, or a man who was not particularly wanting him to have sex, or her to have sex with him, he could of course force herself on him, and yeah, wouldn't that be wonderful?
There you go.
The idea of defining rape to exclude male victims of female perpetrators. How much creepier can you get than to turn around and say, "Oh yeah," by reducing the level of upset we have over this, we're going to condone.
You call Dave Frutrell creepy?
Oh my God!
Oh, he's probably one of the creepiest men I've ever met.
This could go very far. This is, yeah, I sense digression, but let's bring on Lost Garden Gnome to see what he has to say. He or she, actually. Hello, Lost Garden Gnome. Hi.
E. I'm an E.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on. What did you want to bring to the table today?
So I wanted to talk a little bit about some things that have been brought up. One, about tattoos. Yeah, I only have like one rule with tattoos. There's like a tattoo person. You just never insult a tattoo. Just never insult someone's tattoo, and you'll probably be just fine.
What if it's
Why
really
would
bad?
you insult something that somebody went through that much pain to receive?
Right. Oh, I had someone insult my tattoo once, and I was very not nice to them. I was way rude to them.
Very not nice to
That's understandable.
I was
What
much.
if it's a really bad tattoo?
Okay, Karen. If it's not,
then
if
you
it's
keep
really
your mouth
bad,
shut.
say nothing.
Right, yeah, this is Mary Thumper's dad had just loads to say about this. You know, if you can't say anything nice, just don't say anything at all.
Oh my God, you sound like my mother now.
Okay,
Okay, so what if I got the tattoo the only tattoo that I would ever want, which is a set of block brackets, you know, the square brackets, on my ass with the words, your name here, in between them. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Just like a billboard that doesn't have an ad up, your ad here, your name here. On my ass or my lower back, would you be able to not give comment on that tattoo?
Well, I think it's clever a little bit because you can always say you have your name tattooed on your ass.
That's the thing. It would be applicable in any situation.
Exactly.
All right.
I
That aside,
That's
what other comments did you have for us last night?
So about the creepiness, I kind of want to break it into like two different categories. I'm going to call it like physical and then like non-physical but still very social. Like, you know, your verbal communications, your non-verbals, how much I'm waving my hands right now that you can't see. So like what the other guy was talking about with imaginary lint before, that happens to me all the time where like I have really nice hair. Like really nice hair. And I'm not being egotistical. It's just after like the 150th person who said that, I'm just going to go ahead and say that's true. That's a true statement. And people come up and touch it without asking. And it's really, I don't like that. I used to be more okay with it, but now I'm just really not okay with that. And I get that, and apparently that's okay for some people to do. And that's kind of creepy behavior. That happens to me a lot. And it goes along the line.
That I think that our society gives women a lot of latitude to touch men without asking. And you're right, it is a behavior.
This is right along.
Can you imagine if it was the other way around?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and one time I tried that, and I got, man, if looks could kill. Oof.
Yeah.
I gave it a go. I gave it the old college try. That failed miserably. Oof, I mean, just lead balloon.
Yeah. So did you have anything else to add? Besides that, you're totally right about that physical, like, men totally get you're being creepy for more physical contact than women. There's things women can do that, I really wish they would stop, personally. But anyway, did you have an additional comment as well?
Yeah, so like with I'm going to call like the non-physical, maybe verbal interaction, and this goes along the lines of what you were saying with that Saturday Night Live bit about don't be unattractive. And like it's really tough because being attractive takes like years of practice of how to like speak well and have confidence and, you know, engage and smile nice and keep your body looking good so that people want to be around you, you know, and be entertaining and engaging. And I had a friend who, I mean, I tried to help him, you know, communicate with people better. And they wouldn't just say, like, you're a creeper when he went up to some woman at a bar and asked to buy them a drink. They just actually laughed at him. They said nothing but just laughed at him. And I'm assuming the creeper comment was coming after he walked away with, you know, his head down. And you know, for me, that happened a lot when I was growing up, but I practiced. And I got to see, like, okay, this works, this doesn't work. And I took that all as feedback. And sometimes when you give people feedback, like what Fatherless was talking about, they flat out reject it. Like, this isn't working for me, try something different, or try it on someone else. They either take it poorly or they might dismiss it outright or, you know, project it back onto you. and that's I don't know where that behavior comes from. I guess I want to say that when some people who really can't be called creepy do that.
Well, I think you have a good point there. Like I think guys really have to make a larger effort to improve their social behavior to avoid the label of creepy.
Right.
And and women don't. And I don't know.
Well, in fact, as a woman,
I think men
awkward.
need social behavior to the label of creep, and they need to attune themselves to detect female creep better.
Yeah.
That's what I would. That's the advice that I would give men.
Okay, and Della, you had something to say. So.
Yeah. Well, what I basically said was, where a guy who is socially awkward gets called things like creep, very often when you're a woman, being socially awkward can get deemed cute. I've had that happen to me. Been called cute for stuttering and stammering and not being able to make my point because I couldn't talk in front of the person I was trying to talk to.
Yeah.
I guess it might have like a cute factor because it reminds me of like when I was a freshman in high school, kind of how I went about it. Like, you just maybe don't have that practice yet. Is kind of how I see it. Like, this isn't quite honed enough in that sort of a being attractive quality.
Yeah. That for some reason, women don't have to be polished to be attractive necessarily.
Word.
What I think is that when women stutter and when women are tripping over their words and being socially awkward, there's no imputation of any kind of like there's a reason why she's nervous. It's because she has some kind of malicious or sneaky or whatever. It's just because she's nervous, right? It's just, she's awkward, shy. Right? They take her at face value. They don't take the man who behaves in that way at face value. They consider him to be somebody who is trying to, he has something to hide. He's nervous because he has something to hide. I think that's one of the things that really gets men is there's an imputation of agency where it doesn't exist. An imputation of intent where it doesn't exist.
Of malice, almost.
Yeah.
And I think part of that
if
might be...
If he had good intent, he wouldn't be tripping over his words, would he?
Well,
right.
I think part of that might be because we do judge men based on their usefulness. So if a man hasn't actually perfected being social, we judge him as useless, and it's a really harsh judgment, because we then consider him not just to be useless, but also an actively malevolent almost, because he's taking away resources from people who we value more, essentially.
Yes.
Being useless by not producing resources, he's a net consumer of resources. So if a guy is useless, he becomes almost he's seen as malicious, like it's a malicious thing that he's doing by being useless. Even though it's just a situation where he has normal human vulnerabilities or frailties, or it's not anything truly malicious. We cast it as such because of this judgment that we have towards men and being useful.
Just a side statement to that, because we've talked about how difficult it can be to figure out when a woman is malicious or malevolent, or when she's dangerous. One red flag that I've made really clear to my son after watching some of the guys that I've been friends with go through psychotic girlfriend after psychotic girlfriend is to watch how she treats people that she doesn't have to be nice to get them to do things for her. Mm-hmm. If they can't do anything for her, or they have to do it even if she's not nice, like salespeople or wait staff, or anybody that she can just, say jump and they have to say how high. If she's different with those people than she is with everybody else, that's a really bad sign for what kind of a person she really is.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about, like, if she's justifiably angry because, you know, somebody brought her out a dish that has a stogie right in the middle of it or something. I'm talking about, like, if she's just snooty and mean and takes her bad day out on people and things like that, you know, or treats them like they're dirt under her feet. That is a really bad sign. That's a walk-away sign.
But we do have to move on because we got a few other callers that we want to get in before the end of the show. Sorry?
I said thanks. I'll get off.
Well, if you have a final thought, feel free to say it.
Yikes. No, I'm just going to go.
Sure. Okay, thanks for calling in, and we're going to move now to Robert. Robert. Hello, Robert. Yeah, we can hear you. So what did you have to say for tonight?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you, Honey Badgers, for hosting this wonderful radio program. You guys are awesome with that. And also thank you to Avoid, and you guys are also very cool as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. You guys make this the list, make this possible. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I just wanted to share just a couple stories about my experience. One with a woman who was calling someone a creep, and one of my own where I was called a creep, just for sharing reasons. But anyways, I'll start with the woman who calls another guy a creep for a very silly reason. One of my coworkers, a female coworker, was invited to a Christmas party from another department by a young man. He wasn't exactly the most socially apt person, but he seemed nice enough, to me at least. And so me and another coworker were discussing with her, you know, what are you doing for Christmas, da-da-da-da. And then she starts going on to us about this weird plan she has about where she's trying to figure out how she can go to the party with this guy and then immediately just leave him, just go and do her own thing, just so she could be seen there. And me and my male coworker, we just kind of like started laughing at that point and just stopped listening to her and giving her advice. Anyway, she went to the party, and everything went okay from what I understand. Nothing bad happened. But afterwards, man, she just, every time this guy would come up to her because he said to himself, oh, hey, I had a good time with this young lady. He had another good time with her as well. He would just go ahead and she would just go ahead and just like blast him every time he came by. Oh, that creep is coming over to talk with me again. What a jerk he is. All that stuff. And it was really disgusting to me just simply because she used him and then immediately just branded him a creep because he was of no longer of any use to her.
Yeah, she used him, but he's the creep.
Yeah, exactly. I don't follow that path of logic. I mean, not there's much logic to it, but, you know, just for the sake of example.
Yeah, she was really predatory there.
It's typical. It is. It's typical. Like a woman at a bar will rarely brand a man a creep until she's accepted the first drink he bought her. Right? He takes the drink, he calls him a creep, and says, as if, creep. Right? So, you know, it really is. It really is just a way for a woman to dismiss a man as being beneath her. And one of the really insidious things about that is that if she does it in an extremely public way, right, if she does it so that everybody around her notices that she's overtly and definitively rejecting this man on the basis that he is beneath her, he's creepy, he's you know, the very fact that somebody so beneath me would dare to show interest in me is creepy, okay? When she does that, she actually boosts her social status. She's, you know, I am in a position, it was exemplified by Snake Plisskenist in a video response to Rebecca Watson, right, where he said, Ms. Watson, as one hideous monstrosity to another, do you really feel like you're in a position to be turning away sex? Right? Now, a woman who is in a position to be rejecting men, and not just rejecting them, but rejecting them extremely publicly and making a big show of it and tarnishing that man's reputation, she is doing that in order to boost her social status and say, this man was so far beneath me. He may look reasonably attractive, but he's so far beneath me I wouldn't give him the time of day. Now, you, top 2%ers, I'm looking at you. Make your moves. Right? You know, that's what she's saying when she does that.
I think there's one other element to it, too, possibly. I think that this is also projection on her part. And this is something that I find really creepy about a lot of women. I'm not so sure if men do this. I haven't seen it so much. But a woman can do something really nasty to a guy, and then it's almost as if he did it to her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, you know, watching it, it's just a little bit startling. So I think that's coming into play with your example, Robert. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to? Oh, yeah. You said that you did have another story that you wanted to add. So maybe would you go ahead with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you guys basically covered half of it. I asked a young lady who I'd known for some time, about a couple of years or so, and she rejected me, but it wasn't enough for her to reject me. She actually tried to get me to apologize to her for asking her out. It wasn't anything like, oh, let's go to bed. I was just saying, you know, hey, you know, I thought, you know, as opposed to hanging out with all your friends all the time, how about you and me just go hang out sometime, maybe have dinner together? It was something as simple as that, and he elicited such a bizarre reaction, and once again, it made no sense to me. I mean, she doesn't have a job. She lives with her parents. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I'm living my own and everything, so it just boggled my mind as to how I was perceived to have a lower social status, to where I just simply wasn't enough to go ahead and be with this woman, and for it to turn into that. And then afterwards, of course, it turned into the whole, well, you know, that guy's such a creep, as he's still trying to talk to me even after I turned him down. And I mean, you guys heard this spiel 100 times, but yeah, once again, for the sake of example.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you actually asked her out, and it sounds like it was a very polite request, and then she turned around and wanted you to apologize for asking her out.
Mm-hmm. Thank goodness you didn't ask her for coffee in an elevator.
So one of the things though is that living with your parents is a very different there's a different set of perceptions when a woman lives with her parents and when a man lives with his parents. When a man lives with his parents, he's seen as a loser. When a woman lives with her parents, she's seen as valuable enough for her parents to support. Right? So she actually may feel like she is just all that because her parents are still willing to support her, right? There are people who are willing to support her, therefore she is high status. It doesn't work the same way for men.
I think also what I said before may apply to this incident as well. Because she rejected you, she probably feels bad about having had to reject you, and now she's angry at you for making her feel bad for having had to reject you.
One of the things I thought was hilarious was on Reddit just today. Somebody said he was friends with a woman. She misread some signals, and she started to give him the talk. Oh, well, you know what? We're just friends. I only want to be friends talk. And he said, no, I think you got the wrong idea. I actually am really happy. I really like to hang out with you, but I'm not attracted to you. And she said, well, that's totally fucking petty. Okay, like literally, she was him, and when he basically came back and said, yeah, no, I feel the same way, she was like, well, that's an asshole thing to do, is to tell me that.
So it's okay for her to not be attracted to him, but it's not okay.
Yes,
he must be all people.
It's not okay for him to not be attracted to her. So, you know, you sort of look at that and you think this is really, I think, what was a lot of what was going on with this woman is that really she's in a position to reject you. You're not in a position to reject her, and not even necessarily in a position to approach her according to her.
Very logic. Well, I'll never figure out how a polite approach can elicit such nonsense. Just such craziness. Did you have anything else to add to that, Robert?
No, that's about it, ladies. Thank you very much for your time, and keep on keeping on with your radio show.
We certainly will. Thank you for calling in, and thank you for listening.
Okay,
I'm going to go now to It Goes Both Ways. It Goes Both Ways. Are you there?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I just wanted to talk about my experiences with a certain creepy relative of mine. My mother was, we knew she was abusive and things like that, but we didn't quite get the extent of how abusive she was until I spoke to friends that had long since gone away. We didn't know why they went, but as soon as she moved away, leaving us homeless, by the way, and they all started, the story started coming forward, and we were not surprised, but it was still horrific. She raped a 15-year-old boy who was the father of my brother, and she abused my father, beating him and raping him, and waiting until he was unconscious. And that's her method: get them drunk, because she had a hugely high tolerance, and then, my friend, when she found out that I fancied him, she got drunk with him, and he woke up to her on top of him, and he was the only one who ever fought her off because they were worried about injuring the person, and she said that he overreacted, and she's never ever faced any punishment whatsoever. Not even, people even just thought it was just
Can I say something to this?
Yeah.
Good for him for fighting her off. Good for him. When somebody starts to rape another person, and this happens so much with guys who are raped by women, their immediate thought is, I don't want to hurt her. I'm sorry, she's a rapist. She ceases to be a woman. You fight her off. Well,
he was ex-RAF, so he was definitely just instinct first, and I definitely applaud him for that.
Yeah. I think that's an effect of the fight or flight thing, really, because if you look at the way society is, the way men treat women in general, it seems like it's a guy's first instinct around women to be protective. It's one of the ways men nurture in their relationships with women is to be a protector. And so when they get into a situation where they're faced with an aggressive conflict and the aggressor is a woman, this does not compute. I don't know how to handle this. What am I supposed to do? And if the fight or flight thing kicks in there, their first instinct is still going to be the protector because the person facing them is a woman.
He's also,
I think that's why a lot of women get away with abuse for so long.
Yeah. Go ahead. It goes both ways.
Sorry. One thing that I found quite interesting, he can't quite look at me anymore because I look like her, so I tried to respect him for that. But, I do. But, I found it quite interesting that he almost immediately got a girlfriend who was the same age as me, and she was also a rape victim. So it's kind of a nice sort of, well, not nice, but, it's that they found a sort of, what do you call it, similar experiences, that kind of thing.
A sympathy. A sympathy for each other.
Yeah. And it was quite nice to relate to.
It's good it has a happy ending, and hopefully that they can help each other through.
Well, it's the longest relationship they've ever had, so. Yeah,
that's great.
Mm.
It's amazing how, well, it's not amazing, it's sad how much our society just excuses women's sexual abuse of boys and girls and men and other women.
Nobody ever believed us. We talked about it. My dad even lost the custody case because she said that he was the abusive one, and we were both protesting, me and my sister, and saying that, no, she's the abusive one, but, well, of course, we were children, and she's a woman, so.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So that's the thing. Once I remember getting into an argument with somebody on one of the many threads about custody, and they always trot out, what if the man's abusive? And I said, outcomes for children shouldn't be based on the genital configuration of their abusers.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Surely that's misogyny, isn't it?
Well, even if it was a numbers game, even if men were 80 or 90% of the abusers, right? Like, it's basically like when I took my daughter in with a horrible ear infection and to the emergency room, and she threw up twice on the way, and and the doctor there tells me, oh, it's probably just a virus. It should, just give her some chicken soup. And I'm like, she can't even hold down a gravel. My daughter's ear is not a freaking numbers game. Look at her ear. He says, it's occluded. I don't want to hurt her to flush out the earwax. It's probably this. 80% of ear infections are caused by viruses.
Yeah, I had a similar.
And then 2 hours later, her eardrum ruptures, and she's got pus running down her neck.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and I take her in again, and the response from the other doctors, well, 80% of ear infections. I'm like, why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you didn't do your job? Because you decided to play the odds instead of freaking seeing what was the problem? What the fuck?
I completely ignored the
numbers games, and that reminds me of actually something that happened in the States. There was a girl who was kidnapped by a woman, and because she was last seen by a woman, the police didn't actually consider it a grave concern. Well, she ended up raped and dead in a ditch because they played a so-called numbers game, and it's. But I can hear that it goes both ways. Did you want to actually add something? Because I could hear you trying to.
Oh no, I was just lamenting the situation just being.
It's unfortunate. I'm glad your relative seems to have found someone to help, and
no, he's not. He wasn't. But he was somebody I used to like, but she found out that I liked him and then did that. So it was like a competition. Yeah. She used to try and turn my sister's gay friends, insisting that
I see. So it was your relative who did.
It was my mother.
Oh.
So we saw it growing up, and there was an asexual friend of ours who she used to do that to while we were right there. We grew up with a lot of it. It was 17 different people that we know of. And the people who drifted in and out. Not all of them were victimized by her, but a lot of them were. Ever since she left, we've just been hearing more and more stuff, and they don't even know each other. This is the shocking thing, is that they've all confessed independently of each other. So it's like they can't even. I mean, I wouldn't deny it in the first place because I grew up with it, but they can't really deny that much. That's not a coincidence, is it?
So many people coming forward and saying, "Yeah, this person did this."
As soon as she'd gone, because they could talk about it then, and they knew that we lived with it, and it was for their own protection that they had to leave, and I don't begrudge them that. I definitely understand.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation when a society decides that a group of people is above morality and law, and it doesn't have to treat the rest of the world like they're human. And of course, we have the group of people who want to keep it that way, who are fighting hard to keep it that way, ensure that women will never be seen as rapists.
Oh, if we want to talk creepy, we should be talking about Mary Koss.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that is a long conversation.
Oh my God.
Anyway, thank you for calling in. It goes both ways. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that?
Not at the moment. All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Please. You're welcome. I'm sort of at a loss for words, really.
I talk about it on my blog as well, which is same name on Tumblr.
What's your blog?
It goes both ways.tumblr.com. There's a dash between each word.
Okay. Say that slower and very clearly.
It goes both ways.tumblr.com.
So it-goes-both-ways.tumblr.com.
Yeah.
That's it? Okay.
Thank you for calling in. Okay, thank you.
Please do call in again if you feel like you have something else to comment on in a future show. I'm going to go now.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was quite the call.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'm going to go now to Rusty. Rusty, are you there?
Yeah, how's it going tonight, ladies?
It's hard to say after that.
We're in a handbasket.
That was a depressing story.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just it boggles my mind that there's a government funded frickin' group who is essentially enshrining in law the idea that that women are a protected class and can just get away with almost anything. I mean,
yeah, that's a very revealing story because it shows what tolerating that type of abuse leads to. I mean, talking about how many people came forward, all those people coming forward independently of each other to talk about it later. Just that idea, just that they obviously they needed to talk about it, and coming forward to her children to talk about it, that they needed to talk about it to her children. Obviously, they probably thought, well, this is one way to, say it didn't just happen to you guys. We're with you, or find out it didn't just happen to me, it happened to them too. That kind of, it's very telling that as to how that affects society.
Yeah. I'm sure that
this would go on for that long.
Okay. What was it that you wanted to bring to the table tonight, Rusty?
Okay, so there's two things. The first one is I frequent a forum on the internet that has about 2 million users, and about 95% of them are women. So anytime I say anything that's remotely not feminist-oriented, it's you misogynist asshole, get out of here. So one day, this was a couple of years ago, I was talking on this forum, and this lady, they're talking about what they want to do for the weekend, and this lady pipes up and says, my husband and I, we're not doing so good in our relationship, and his company paid for us to go to this conference. It's a 5-star hotel, and we're getting this really wonderful room in this motel that has a jacuzzi in it. What should we do for the weekend? And I took the bait, and which I think pretty much everyone listening is thinking, kinky hot tub sex, right? Well, because I said it, and I'm a guy, I am the creepy misogynist asshole. How dare you suggest to a stranger on the internet that they should be having kinky sex with their spouse? When this lady
my thought would have been,
the first part is creepy. She asked a creepy question and expected someone to give her an answer like, well, maybe you should take a book.
My thought would have been, what the hell are you even thinking? That his company is paying you to attend a conference. They're nice enough to send you along. What you should do for the weekend is attend the conference.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, but
right?
Why would she even ask? You're right. It is a creepy question. It's a creepy leading question. It's like she's dragging out a line to see who bites.
Yeah.
It was, hey, look at my dirty laundry. What do you want to tell me about it that I can get offended at because you said it? It was, can't make my ass look fat.
Yeah.
My God.
Honestly, she put out there that she's got marital problems, and then she put out there that they're going to a conference that's paid for by their business, and then she put out there that they're going to the perfect room for a couple that wants to have sex. What did she expect? But and in all honesty, I probably would have fallen into that trap too. I would have said something along the lines of, hey, this is the perfect time to maybe, reconnect a little bit, not during work hours, not during, the time when he needs to be focused on the material for the conference. But at some point, you should at least have a chance.
Yeah,
and I would have been better either.
I would have been totally the opposite. I would have been, and I'm the dirtiest person out there, right? And I would have said, you know what? It's a conference paid for by his company. It's business, right? What the fuck? Anything
really
extraneous?
Go along at all.
Like you're on company time, lady. Is his company paying you to fuck? Like, why are you even asking this? You're supposed to go there with him and show up to events dressed nicely, representing, and interacting with people as a corporate wife, right? That's what you're supposed to be doing. Not asking, what should I be doing for this weekend? No, you know what you're supposed to be doing for this weekend. His company is not paying you to attend with him so that you can freaking, shoe shop or bang the pool boy or even bang your husband. That's not why they're paying for you to go.
Well, I think what she was trying to fish for was probably some... maybe some passive-aggressive tactics, or who knows. You're right, it's a creepy question.
It's a really creepy question.
Your response was perfectly in line. You sprung the trap.
It's like, of course that's what she's thinking of. That's the response that she wants. That's just not the response that should have been, that's not the response that I would have given. I would have been like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's your job.
Yeah. That's
right?
Also adequate, I think. But did you have anything else to add, Rusty? We're getting close to the end of the show, and we have one last caller after you.
Okay, yeah, really quick. I think it was Karen that mentioned earlier in the show about when feminists get involved in therapy and they do these bullshit therapeutical approaches. Was that Karen that said that?
I'm not sure.
Actually, it might have been me talking about when it talked about that they try to tell you it didn't happen the way you said it happened.
Yeah,
it involves the woman as an aggressor.
So I had this recent experience of talking with in therapy about some sexual abuse that happened to me from an ex-wife, and I got referred to the Women's Center at the university for this.
Oh God!
And so a couple of weeks it takes me to get the balls to go up there, and I walk in, and there's a couple of women there, and they automatically look at me and with this stare of, what chick are you looking for that you've been stalking,
Yeah.
And so I get up there, and I'm talking to the receptionist, and I mention, that there was this sexual abuse, and she pulls out this paper, and on one side it has like all of the phone numbers for the cops and RAIN and all of these resources that are specifically geared to only female abuse or rape victims. And then on the other half of that page, it has a list of things you can do to avoid assaulting someone. Like, don't approach a woman at night; you might assault her.
Oh my God!
And then, all of these ridiculous things that bullshit things that feminists spout out. And the other side had a thing about how you should carry a rape whistle. Not because you might get raped, but because you might rape someone else. So if you're walking down the street and you're talking to your girlfriend and you're feeling rapey, you should blow the rape whistle.
Are you serious? They turned that whole thing, the 10 tips or 20 tips or whatever, that was portrayed by feminists as a satire. If you carry a rape whistle, if you feel like raping someone, blow the whistle. Use the buddy system. If you feel like raping someone, get your buddy to pull you off of them, right? That was supposed to be a satire.
Karen, we're running out of time. Essentially what they're saying is that the satire is, they're actually presenting it as real tips.
Yeah.
But I have to move to the next caller. We're really close to the end of the show. Thank you, Rusty, for calling in. And I'm bringing on Flyover Territory. Flyover Territory, are you there?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Yeah, we don't
Hello,
have a lot
ladies.
of time.
Just real quick, since you guys had been mentioning the slut walk earlier, and Robert had made the comment about tattoos, in an interaction, a friend of mine and some college student radical feminazis had this little back and forth thing that was kind of entertaining to sort of sit back and be a spectator for a few moments. Whereas they were he was talking about how the slut walk, and how, hey, look, listen, I like all the guys that were being supportive of it. And she said, yeah, well, I understand about that because the tramp standing back of on my back, and I've seen it before, this tattoo, by the way, literally says, my name is blank. I mean, it says her name. I'm not going to say it out loud. And the question was, why do you have that there? It's so that they don't forget my name. Because you bone so much, right? And you're too busy hitting the buffet. Is that what it is? And she's like, well, yeah. And he goes, hey, you know what? I got something similar. I have a tattoo that says drinking, getting laid, and getting paid. And the first thing out of her mouth is, misogynistic piece of, goes on and on and on. And he's like, wait a minute. You just having that kind of a tattoo on the small of your back, but I told you about a pretend tattoo, and now all of a sudden I'm the bad guy?
Yeah.
Really? And then here's what's really bad. She turns around and says, well, you're minimizing my pain because I've got tattoos and piercings. I'm like, lady, my piercing was a 9mm. You going to discount my pain too? And it's a scar. And she's like, yours doesn't count. I'm like, pardon me?
Oh, because it wasn't self-inflicted. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, mine was involuntary. Exactly.
One of the most amazing things that I found is when they, when I forget who it was that I think it was Judgy Bitch that checked the top causes of injury for women ages 15 to 25 or something like that in a bunch of different countries. And in Canada, I think it was, I don't know whether it was number 1, number 2, or number 3, but it was in the top 3, was self-harm. Oh. That was one of the top 3 causes of injury resulting in, medical treatment, medical attention for women in Canada.
That also, I just wanted to point out real quick, it also leads to how some of those same women with that mindset want to have tattoos in a much more sensitive part of the body that's going to increase the pain response, like the top of the foot.
Not just that, but a lot of them,
or the inside of the rib.
A lot of them want to have a tattoo that actually displays their pain. It displays it. It basically makes a show of their particular issue, their particular pain. They have a specific set of words or something that is always going to remind them of that horrible thing.
So that they enshrine their victimhood forever, which is
exactly. And hey, listen, the best bet in the world is to if you have that level of pain in your life, you don't need to keep reliving it. Just leave Robert Smith behind you in the rearview mirror and march on through life.
Exactly.
Pure and simple.
But we are.
Thanks for having me on, ladies. I appreciate it much. Catch you later on.
Yeah,
all right.
Great. Thanks for calling in. And we are definitely on the top of the hour, so we have seconds left. So all we have left to do is to thank the people who've called in, the people who've listened. Thank you to my co-hosts, Karen Strawn and Della Burton. Thanks to James, who mans the back room. Thanks to Phil, who creates our wonderful animations every week, and to Europa Phonics, is that Phonics or Phoenix, who creates our illustrations. And tune in next week, same time, same bat channel, same bat station, same bat time. And
eat some red pill, eat some larva, and
eat some larva.
Badger.
Thank you and good night.
All right.
This is Honey Badger Radio, reminding you to take the red pill.
Bye.